What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Reality Roundtable. I'm your host, Jonathan Brown. And I hope you're having a great day. And if you're not, I hope this conversation helps makes it a little bit better. And wherever you're listening to this episode, I'm glad that you're here listening. And on today's episode, it's about something that every single one of us needs, but we may not admit it, and that is community. And when I say community, I don't mean the social media followers, the likes, or the people who just know your name. I mean actual real community. People you can call on when life falls apart. People who celebrate your wins without feeling jealous. And people who tell you the truth when you don't want to hear it. People who remind you who you are when you may have forgotten. We hear people say all the time that I don't need anybody. I'll do everything by myself. Or I stay to myself. Or I don't trust people. And maybe you've said one of those things before. You might even believe one of those things. But here's what I've learned. Sometimes what we call independence is really just disappointment. Sometimes we've been hurt so many times that we've convinced ourselves that we're better off alone. And it's easier to build walls than it is to build bridges. It's also easier to isolate yourself rather than risk getting hurt again. But that isolation has a price, and it can be a really expensive one. And the scary thing is, most people don't realize that they're paying the price until years later. So today, I want us to have a real conversation and not a motivational speech. Not someone pretending that they got life figured out. Just me and the audience talking about why community matters in today's world. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. You know what's interesting? We live in one of the most connected times in human history, and somehow we've never felt more disconnected from other people. Like, just think about it for a second. You can get in touch with somebody instantly by messaging them, and they can be on the other side of the world. You can video call your family. You can post thousands of pictures that others may see. You can honestly watch somebody's life in real time. And yet, despite all of that, loneliness continues to grow in the world. And why is that? It's because technology can connect devices, but it cannot replace real relationships. You can have 5,000 Facebook friends and still have nobody to call when you're crying at 2 in the morning. You can have a bunch of followers on Instagram and you might still be eating dinner alone every night. And you can get hundreds of comments saying you're amazing and you'll still feel invisible. That's because human beings are not designed for surface level connection. We're designed for community, real conversations, laughter, struggles, victory, and real people. I remember hearing someone say something years ago that completely changed how I looked at relationships. They said, people weren't created to carry life by themselves. And when that person said that, it really stuck with me. Because if you really think about it, every major moment in life usually involves other people. We're born into a family. We learn from teachers. We have coworkers. We have friends that we celebrate with. And we have those loved ones who we mourn with. Even the strongest person in history had someone beside them. Because nobody truly succeeds by themselves. They might get the spotlight alone, but they did not get there alone. Somebody believed in them. Somebody encouraged them, opened the door, gave them a chance, or invested in them. Community has always been a part of the journey. But here's where things get complicated. Community isn't always easy because people aren't always easy. People disappoint you, misunderstand you, betrayed you, forget about you, and let you down. And after each disappointment, you start believing that trusting people isn't worth the risk. And maybe that's where you are today. Maybe you've been hurt. Maybe someone you counted on disappeared. Maybe the people who promised that they would be there just weren't. Maybe your circle got smaller, or your phone stopped ringing, or you realized that the people you were always showing up for just weren't showing up for you. And if that's your story, I get it. A lot of people do. But here's something I've had to remind myself. Bad experiences with some people shouldn't be a permanent expectation for everybody. Because if one person lies to you, that doesn't mean everybody will. And if one friendship ends, that doesn't mean you'll never have another meaningful friendship. If one community became toxic, that doesn't mean that healthy communities don't exist. Sometimes life hurts us so deeply that we accidentally close the door on the very thing that could help us heal. One of the biggest reasons that community matters is because life is unpredictable. Nobody gets through life without hardship. At some point, we're all gonna lose someone. We're all gonna experience failure, get discouraged, question ourselves. And everyone has seasons where they don't know what they're doing. And in those moments, community becomes priceless. Think about the hardest season you've ever had. Maybe it was losing a job, or it could have been losing someone you loved, or it could be depression, anxiety, financial stress, or it could have been that you've had a feeling of feeling completely lost. Now ask yourself, did having people around you make that season easier or harder? For most of us, the people who simply sat with us, listened, checked in, sent a text, or just reminded us that we weren't alone, made an incredible difference. Sometimes community doesn't solve the problem. It simply reminds you that you don't have to face the problem by yourself. And that changes everything. I think one of the biggest lies that our culture tells us is that asking for help is weakness. And honestly, it's not. It's really wisdom. Imagine breaking your leg and refusing to go to the hospital because you wanted to prove how strong you are. That doesn't make you strong. It just makes the recovery process harder. The same thing happens emotionally. Some people carry burdens that were never meant to be carried alone. Not because nobody would help them, but because they never asked anybody to help them. They convinced themselves that I'll figure it out, I don't want to bother anybody, or that I'll just deal with it myself. And as time goes on, that weight gets heavier. And eventually, they're going to wonder why they're exhausted. So sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let somebody help you. One thing I've noticed is that life becomes lighter when the load is shared. And that's the power of community. It's not about having hundreds of friends. It's about having a few real ones. The people who know the real you, not the social media or professional version of you, but the real version of you. The one who has doubts, the one who's still growing, and the one who's trying to become better every day. Because those relationships are priceless. Community isn't just about having people around you. It's about having the right people around you. Because not every crowd is a community. And not every friend is really your friend. And not every relationship helps you grow. And one of the biggest signs that you found a healthy community is that there's accountability involved in it. Now, I know that's not the most exciting word to hear, because when people hear accountability, they usually think that somebody is criticizing them. Someone pointing out their mistakes, somebody telling them that they're wrong. And we have to be honest, nobody enjoys that. But healthy accountability isn't about making you feel small. It's about helping you become who you're capable of being. Just think about every successful athlete, they have coaches. Every musician has instructors. And actors have directors. Business owners tend to have mentors. And authors tend to have editors. Even those in the medical field learn from each other. Because the people at the highest levels don't avoid accountability. They seek it. Because they understand something many people may never realize. Blind spots are impossible to see by yourself. If you could see every weakness you had, there wouldn't be a blind spot. That's why we need people who care enough to tell us the truth. But not to embarrass us, and not to control us. But because they genuinely want us to succeed. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to justify your own bad habits? I'll start tomorrow. It's just one more day. I deserve this. It's not that serious. We've all done this. We've all become incredible lawyers for our own excuses. But then, somebody who loves you says, "Hey, you don't seem like yourself today," or "I think you're settling." Or maybe, "I know you're capable of more than this." And at first when they say that, it stings. Because nobody likes hearing that. But sometimes, the people who challenge us are the people who care about us the most. Because indifference stays silent, but love speaks up. I remember a conversation I had years ago with someone who told me something that stuck. He said, if nobody in your life can tell you no, you're probably headed towards trouble. Now just think about that. If everyone around you agreed with everything you said, that would be dangerous. Because if nobody can question your decisions, that too is dangerous. And if everybody just tells you what you want to hear, you're not growing then. because growth requires friction, and iron sharpens iron. Great conversations aren't always comfortable. Sometimes they're uncomfortable because they're necessary. Here's another thing that community gives us, and that is perspective. You ever notice how problems feel 10 times bigger when they're trapped in your own head? You start imagining the worst case scenarios. You replay conversations. You overthink every decision. You convince yourself that things are hopeless. And then you finally tell somebody, and within 5 minutes, they help you see something you've completely missed. Same situation, yet a different perspective. And sometimes that's all we need. We don't need somebody to always solve our problems. Sometimes we just need somebody to remind us that you've been through difficult seasons before and that you'll figure this out. You're not seeing the whole picture. One thing I've learned is that isolation makes tiny problems look enormous, and community makes enormous problems feel manageable. The situation might not change overnight, but your mindset towards it can. And the start of a great mindset changes everything. So let's talk about belonging for a minute, because I think this is something that almost everyone searches for. Because whether they admit it or not, people want to feel like they matter. They want to feel accepted, and they want to feel like somebody is happy when they show up. Think back to your childhood. Most of us wanted to fit in somewhere. That could be sports, music, church, social clubs, or maybe even in the neighborhood. We all wanted a place where we felt like, I belong here. And that desire never really disappears. We just get older, and adults need belonging just as much as children do. And sometimes even more. Because adulthood gets busy. People move away, people get married, have kids, change jobs, and their schedules get packed. And before you know it, months or maybe years have passed by since you've had a meaningful conversation. And it's not because anybody's a bad person. It's really because life just happened. That's why community has to be intentional. It doesn't accidentally stay healthy. You have to invest in it. All relationships are like gardens. Nobody plants flowers, walks away for 6 months, and expects everything to look beautiful. You have to water it. You have to remove the weeds. You have to protect it. And you have to spend time in it. And friendships work the same way. Strong communities don't happen because people are lucky. They happen because people constantly show up. One of my favorite questions to ask someone is, how are you? Like, really, how are you? And not just the automatic answer or the polite answer, but the real answer. Because most people are carrying something that no one knows anything about. Somebody listening right now, you might have smiled all day today. You might have laughed, handled all your responsibilities, and looked fine while doing it. But deep down, you're exhausted. whether that be emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or financially. You might just be feeling stuck right now. And you don't necessarily need someone to fix everything. You might just need someone willing to listen to you without judging you or rushing you. And here's something worth remembering. Sometimes community doesn't begin with finding the right people. Sometimes it begins with becoming the right person yourself. That's a challenging thought because it's easy to ask, where are all the loyal people? But maybe we should also ask, am I myself loyal? Am I dependable? Do I return phone calls? Do I encourage people? Do I celebrate others without getting jealous? And do I check in on the people who I care about? Community isn't just about something we receive. It's also about something we give and something that we build. Because every conversation, every act of kindness, and every time we show up, brick by brick, relationship by relationship, communities get stronger. And here's a quote that I like to think about. If you want good friends, be one. Sounds simple, but it's not always easy. The energy you constantly put in the world has a funny way of coming back. And maybe not immediately, but over time. People notice consistency, and people remember kindness. People trust reliability, and trust is the foundation of every meaningful community. And you know what confidence really is? It's not believing that you'll never fail. It's believing that you'll be okay even if you do fail. And healthy communities help build that confidence. Because suddenly failure isn't the end. It's just another lesson surrounded by people who refuse to let you quit. Imagine trying something you've never done before. Whether that's starting a business, writing a book, going back to school, etc., etc. That new challenge could be scary. Now imagine doing it with people who genuinely believe in you. People who say, you got this, keep going, I'm proud of you, and don't stop now. Those words matter more than people realize. Sometimes one conversation can change the direction of someone's entire life. Maybe you've experienced that before. Maybe you've had that one teacher that believed in you, that one coach that encouraged you, or that one friend who refused to let you give up. And sometimes that's all it takes. One reminder that you're capable of more than you think. That's the end of part 1 of this episode. I'm your host, Jonathan Brown, and thank you for listening to another episode of Reality Roundtable. I'll be back with another episode pretty soon, and sorry that it took more than 2 weeks for me to release another episode. Thank you, and have a great day.